welcome back to Beauty Bees. I'm Iris and I recently got a new toy. Look at this. This is the Viseart Fleurette Amour palette. I got this off of Ipsy. I believe it was $24. Regular price $40, so it was 40% off. I think you could probably score a very similar, maybe even slightly better deal on the Viseart site itself as we get into major sale season. But here is what this palette looks like. So we have 4 eyeshadows and then 2 blushes. We have a purple row and more of I'll call it a cool toned neutral row. I have not tried this out yet. I'm super excited to do so. And I think that I'm going to focus mainly on this row today, though I'll probably bring in a little bit of this purple just because using that as my transition and crease color by itself sounds very intimidating for me personally. But before we do that, let's just swatch these and see what exactly we're working with. So there is that bottom row. I really like this shade. I thought it was going to be pretty much your standard blue-brown, but it has a little bit more interest to it. It's almost like a purple peach, but it still reads as very cool toned somehow. Super interesting. That brown has more purple in it than I thought it did looking at it in the pan. And there we have that blush, which is looking a little bit patchy currently, but who knows with finger swatches of blush, right? It's just so completely removed from how you actually apply blush that I don't put too much weight on that. Now let's move to that top row. So definitely an interesting color story. It looks like overall the purple shades are a little bit weaker than the neutral shades, but look at that lilac shimmer. That is stunning. And it's kind of a weird color story, right? Like, I don't have anything super similar to this, but it really works. So, oh man, I'm really excited to get into this. I have face primer on, but I'm not starting out with eye primer. I really haven't been using eye primer very often recently, so we're just going to test this the way I would generally do my makeup. So let's start out with just a wash of this lilac, like all over my lid, up into my crease. We're going to sort of use that as the base for the entire look. And today I'm going to start out with this little shader brush. Probably should have picked something a little bit bigger, but right now I'm working with a slightly limited palette of brushes. I decided that I was going to try, having most of my makeup sort of put away and then bringing out a smaller, almost capsule set of makeup on maybe a monthly or a bi-monthly basis. And so far, it's been going pretty well, but it is a little bit annoying that I didn't set up to have more brushes out. I should change that. I like how this is building up. I didn't really intend on going quite as full color, but I mean, that's on me for choosing to use this brush, right? I definitely could have used something softer and gotten a very different effect, or something more diffused, something a little bit bigger. But I didn't. Hopefully I'm not, I'm blowing the color out, aren't I? We'll see how this turns out. I will try not to turn away from the camera anymore because it really doesn't like my hands and it really doesn't like my face. I could have said that better, but whatever, we're keeping it. Step 2, I think, is to deepen some areas up. I want to deepen up that outer corner, especially, and then up in my crease, I want to layer a little bit of this purpley brown into the deepest part of my crease. And then my thought is that I will use this shade right on the center of my eye to really make it pop. And while we're at it, to get all 4 colors in there, maybe put a little bit of this in my inner corner. Sound like a plan? I think it sounds like a plan. So I'm going in with this pencil brush with that brown on a pencil brush. I know how prepositions work. I feel like I haven't filmed myself doing my makeup in ages. And I'm very out of practice. It took me a long time to be able to film one of these videos without like making a giant mess of things, without having to constantly like refilm every other line, every sentence. But I was doing pretty well with it, and now we are just back to square one, it feels like. Okay, so I don't love how that turned out. Oh, but now that I'm adding a little more, I can see the vision. It's starting to come together. I probably should have put my hair back, but I'm far enough along now that I don't think I'll really be dealing with it anymore. I like that. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of that along my lower lash line. I don't really want to add a bunch of color. I just want things to feel balanced. So having a bunch of color on my upper lid, I want to have at least something going on down there. So, all right. And I think that is looking good. So let's go to the shimmers. I brought out my glitter glue, but let's try it without glitter glue first and just see what happens. I think the first step is I'm going to add that little bit of highlight into my inner corner. So with the pink, that is really nice. That has some bling to it, but nothing too ridiculous. I can get behind this. A little bit more. Okay. So it's not the most blinding shimmer by itself, but it does have some nice shine to it. It does look clearly pink on my lid, and it has obvious base color to it. It's not one of those shades that just feels like glitter once you get it on. Not that this is a pressed glitter or anything. It is a shimmery shadow, but I've run into some shimmery shadows where that pigment in it is almost like a very fine glitter. This is not that. And because I really do want that lid shade to pop, I think I am going to go in with a little bit of glitter glue. This is the NYX glitter primer. Hopefully it has not dried out on me. Nope. I haven't used this in ages because I just haven't been spending a bunch of time on my makeup recently, and this is a step that I feel very confident skipping on an average Tuesday. So I'm really focusing that on the very center of my lid, and then here's the moment of truth. Oh, that's really pretty. You know what this is making me think of? That ColourPop quad, like quad of Super Shocks that Coffee Break with Danny brought out years ago. I think it was like Metamorphosis or something. It was very heavy on these duochrome shades. And I didn't own it. I lusted after it, but I couldn't quite bring myself to make the purchase at that time because I was a very broke college student. This is very much giving me those same vibes. And I intended on just putting a little bit in the center of my lid, but I am so into the shade that I am putting it over a much larger area than I originally intended. But I'm loving it, so it's fine. So that is looking really nice on the lid. I think that I could use a little bit of blending because my use of transition shade was questionable. But that's blending out just fine. I'm really happy with it. I'm gonna put some mascara on and then we can move to the face. A little bit more of a spider lash going on than I was really going for. I think it's probably time to switch out mascaras, but it at least gives you a good idea of what the eye look will look like at the very end, which I think it's pretty cute. I really like this shine. I feel like it's an interesting color because, like, looking at this right now, I feel like it's doing a great job of bringing out the green in my eyes. Appreciate that. But I'm looking at my eyes and I cannot fully pin down if this is a purple look, if this is a neutral look, or if it's almost like a blue. It's really pretty in person. I hope it is coming off just as nicely on camera. I will put a note if it is not looking anything similar. So hopefully it is. So now let's move on to the face. I think that I'm going to start, actually let's just do a mix to start and then I'll pop a little bit of whatever I feel like on the apple of my cheeks as well. So I'm just using a mixture of the two to start with. And I am, wow, really throwing off the white balance, but I'm starting with that. So that's a mix. Now I'm going to take a little bit more of, I think I'm going to take a little bit more of the lighter shade, this more corally pinky shade. I'm just going to really focus that on the very apple of my cheek. And that's looking heavy on camera. And actually it's looking a little heavy in person too. Oops. So I have a clean brush. This has a tiny little bit of bronzer, maybe, but whatever, it's fine. So I'm just going to go over that. The blushes were a little bit more pigmented than I really thought I was getting myself into. But now it looks really nice in person and it still looks heavy on camera. I'm gonna need to figure out the lighting in this room. Sorry, don't have that worked out yet, but we'll get there. So I think that covers everything that'll come out of the palette. I did pull this lipstick, which I think is now gonna be too pink, but it's not bad. Let's throw on a little bit of gloss too. Just while we're here, maybe that'll help tone down the pink a little bit. So I didn't say what I was using, but this is from Nude Sticks. It is their like multi-stick in Rosy Posy. And then this is a Tower 28 lip gloss. Oh, I'm sorry. It's their Shine On Lip Jelly, excuse me, in Sesame, which is kind of a mauve brown. And you know what? I really like that mixture. So, first thoughts on the palette. A little bit surprised. I thought that the blushes were going to be a little bit less pigmented, though I did end up going in with more product than I intended. So I'll need to play around with those, figure out how to make them work without having to go over them again with a semi-clean brush. The eyeshadows I am so happy with. I love this shade. I think it is gorgeous. It's strange because I feel like I should have this 20 times over, but yet I can't think of anything that is super close. I think there are a lot of eyeshadows I have that are like half siblings to this, but I don't think I have any twins. At least not any identical twins. Then the rest of the eyeshadows seem pretty on par with what I've come to expect from Viseart. I have 3 of the Viseart Petite Pro palettes. So they're little 8-pan palettes that come in this envelope style packaging. I have Petite 1, 2, and 3. And I like the quality on all of those. I find that the mattes are excellent, which I think these two feel very similar to those. The shimmers in those palettes, I think they're very nice shimmers, but I think that the shimmers are nothing beyond what you could find in other, mid to high-end palettes. I think the mattes are really where those palettes shine. These shimmers I really like so far. I think that these are a little bit more glitzy than the shimmers that I have in my other Viseart palettes. And one more note, I know this is what I was asking when I first saw this palette. Yes, this is the same size as those other Viseart palettes. The 4 eyeshadows are the same size, so you could flip those out. Additionally, these blush pans, you can fit 2 of these eyeshadows in one of these openings if you were to take out one of the blushes. So if you did want to use this as a travel palette or something, you could take 1 blush and 6 Viseart eyeshadows, which I think is pretty nifty. So overall, this is looking like a hit so far. Obviously, I've just used it once. Would need to use it a lot more to come to a fully formed opinion, but so far, so good. I'm pretty impressed. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider liking and subscribing if you did, and I hope I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day, guys. Bye!